This is a regular meeting of the Commission for the Blind, December 5th, 2025, 1 p.m. in Portland, Oregon.
All right, it is now 1:01 p.m. This is a December 5th, 2025 commission meeting of the Oregon Commission for the Blind, and this meeting is now called to order. Max, would you please take roll?
Certainly. Chair Nadira Broom is noted as present. Lillian Goodman and Laurel Hudson are both absent. Alan Labrum. He was just here. There you are, Dr. Labrum, I see you. Stephanie McGarry.
Present.
Nalacey Porter.
Present.
Scott Wall.
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum. The meeting can go forward.
Thank you, Max. All right, and we now move on to welcoming the new commissioner, Nalacey Porter. Welcome aboard, Nalacey. Would you please say a little something about yourself? Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Nalacey Porter, and I currently work for the Oregon Health Authority, and I'm the digital accessibility trainer, where I essentially audit Oregon.gov websites for digital access to ensure that it's accessible for those who use assistive technologies. I also do some remediating of documents, particularly digital documents such as PDFs. And yeah, I very glad to be here. I've used Commission for the Blind services from as far back as I could remember, middle school, elementary school, high school, if it was SWEP or their technology training, so on and so forth. So it's just an honor to be here, to be able to serve the agency that helped me in so many different ways to allow me to be where I'm at today. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you.
Hey, good to meet you too, Nalacey. And again, welcome aboard. I'm going to open up the floor just for the other commissioners to do the same.
So you want to, Stephanie, Nadira?
Mm-hmm.
You just want us to introduce yourself to him?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm Stephanie McGarry. I'm probably one of the newer commissioners. Well, actually, no, there's one other. So I am actually the National Federation of the Blind president. I'm also actually an active client as of right now. I'm like you. I've been pretty grateful to receive services and able to serve, to give back. I'm also a drug and alcohol counselor, and I work in Grants Pass, Oregon. And welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. This is Scott Wall, and I'm from Columbia Regional Program in Portland. I think, Nalacey, I met you many years ago, but it's been a while. So welcome to the commission. This is my first year on, and I'm learning a lot. So yeah, thank you.
Good to meet you, Scott.
Nice to meet
Thank you, Scott.
I can go next. Hi, Lacey. I'm Dr. Labrum. I work at the KCI Institute in the Vision Rehabilitation program, and I try to help people get the most out of their vision and connect them to services like the Commission for the Blind. And I'm here to try to, I guess, advocate for them any way I can. And welcome, Lacey.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Labrum. And I'm going to bring up the rear here. I'm Nadira, and I am, well, I have been a commissioner for 4 years, but this is my first year as the chair. So I'm learning too. But thank you, thank you for signing up for this. And yeah, looking forward to working with you. All right.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now we move on to the approval of the minutes from the October 3rd meeting. Now, as usual, the meeting minutes, were sent out beforehand. I hope all of you got a chance to go over them, and now I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
This is Scott. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as mailed.
Thank you, Scott. Looking for a second?
Stephanie, I make a motion to second them.
Thank you, Stephanie. Max? I'm not hearing.
Nadira Broom.
Yeah. I approve.
Dr. Labrum.
I approve.
Second. Yes. Stephanie.
Approve.
Nalesi.
I guess I would abstain since I wasn't here.
And Scott Wall.
I approve.
Thank you. That is 4 ayes and an abstention. The measure passes.
Thank you, Max. Okay, now we go on to the audience introduction.
That's more me. Thank you.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to start by introducing our Executive Director, Daisha Johnson. Angel Hale is here, the Director of Rehabilitation Services. Kat Martin, Chief Financial and Information Officer. Mr. Paul Coons, Director of Independent Living Services. Jim Portillo, Director of the Orientation and Career Center for the Blind. And Ron Stewart is not joining us today. Clay France is here. He'll make a report later in the meeting. Mary Michelle Sosney is the Legislative Fiscal Analyst. And Clay France, I think I've made it through my list. So, and Mr. Woodward, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Todd Woodward. I'm an Oregon Disabilities Commissioner, just as a guest today.
Welcome. Thank you. That's everyone, Nadira.
Thank you, Max. Welcome, Todd. And hello again, everyone. Okay, now it's where we open up to public comment, if there is any today. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the Executive Director report. Daisha?
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I wish you a happy holiday season. It is a very busy time at the end of the year for the agency. Many of our federal reports are going to be due in January, and so while we were trying to fit in our holiday festivities between Thanksgiving and New Year's, we're also busy preparing a lot of federal program and financial reports. So there's lots happening here at the agency. We have a couple of reports for you. I'll ask Kat to present the donations and financial reports.
Thank you, Daisha. Good rainy afternoon, Madam Broom, Commissioners, and guests. Beginning with the October 2025 bequest and donation statement, interest earnings on the cash balance in the fund over the last 2 months exceeded $9,000, and OCB received $353 in new donations. That brought the cash ending balance on October 31st to $799,764 after an accounting correction was booked during the period. Referencing the financial status report, the Commission's legislatively adopted budget for biennium 25-27 is $9,522,624 general fund dollars, $1,149,704 other fund limitation, and $22,158,954 in federal fund limitation, for a total of an approved budget of $32,831,282, 67 positions, and 67 full-time equivalents. The current biennium kicked off on July 1st, and with 4 months of transactional activity complete in the statewide financial management application and projecting 20 months into the future, we are once again looking at a shortfall when comparing budget to projected expenditures, despite receiving reallotment dollars in the Rehab Services Administration's summer 2025 reallotment process. Current projections suggest that special payments, which are services to clients provided by other than OCB personnel, and durable goods like computers acquired on their behalf, will be $3.1 million over budget. While consistent with trends in previous years, and despite some ability to offset this with underspending in key categories, like salaries and benefits, and agency-specific services and supplies, the total variance for the close of the biennium in June of 2027, as of this report, is $585,293 over the approved budget. Operating under tight resource constraints for the last few years, where increases to our federal award have not kept pace with actual inflation in Oregon, nor the demand for services, this overspend is part of the basis for the necessity to enter an order of selection for the vocational program approved by this board at the October meeting. That ends my report. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
Questions for Kat?
Stephanie. So Kat, if we're over budget, what does that mean?
Well, it means we don't have approval to spend as much as we're projecting to spend at the present time. We, of course, look at all opportunities to increase funding across the biennium when they present themselves, but the state is trying to adjust to the impacts of HR 1, which means it's unlikely we will get additional general fund from the legislature. And of course, there's a great deal of uncertainty at the federal level with what's happening with a continuing resolution currently in place, funding us through the end of January. Daisha, would you like to add any additional context?
Sure. So the short answer, Stephanie, is we can't end over budget.
Okay.
So we're going to make what we can in terms of cost savings measures. If you will, for those of you who've been around a while, I think for the last 3 bienniums in a row, at this time, we would have gone to the legislature and come to this commission for a request to increase our federal limitation to allow us to kind of stay within budget. The difference with this time around is we had a significant surplus of federal funds during the pandemic that had built up that we've kind of burned through. So the reason why we're not asking for additional federal limitation or spending authority to keep us within budget is we actually are monitoring closely our available federal money.
Mm-hmm.
So spending authority, if you don't actually have the money to spend, doesn't help you at all. So we're the first cost saving measure is we're being super cautious and conservative about the timing and what positions we can fill. And then we're also moving forward with the order of selection. So our goal is always to be within budget. And so we'll be working on, implementing any additional cost savings measures. If there is, if we get to a place where we feel like we have sufficient revenue to ask for additional spending authority to increase our budget, we will certainly do so. But right now, given where we're at, as Kat mentioned, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the federal portion, because we don't have a full appropriation yet for federal fiscal year 2026 that just started in October, we don't actually know what our 2026 federal revenue looks like. We have some assumptions, but we don't know exactly what that looks like until we don't know what our federal cash is that would be available. But we have to stay within budget is the short answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I think we've had one additional guest join us.
Yes, I can't say the name, Jalinda Patton from the DAS Chief Financial Office, and that's our new analyst.
Jalinda, would you like to say hello at all to the commission?
Hello, it's nice to see all your faces and hear all these reports.
Yes, thank you for joining us. right, any other questions for Kat? All right, thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you.
All right, I teased it a little bit, but to provide you a little bit of a context for our federal update, the big news is we were all tracking the longest in history federal government shutdown that officially ended when President Trump signed into law a continuing resolution on the 12th of November. How we were operating during that time is using any remaining federal cash that we had from the federal fiscal year 2025. So the 2026 appropriations have hit the agency. We have received an award that gives us partial funding at the 2025 level through January 30th of 2026. So it is not unusual for us to be in a continuing resolution situation. The unusual nature, obviously, was the fact that it took them several days into November to pass a budget that started October 1st of 2025. So that is, we are currently in federal fiscal year 2026 that runs through September 30th. So hearing that, you can recognize that January 30th isn't the full year of funding. So 2026 is an election year. And if the past is any prediction of what will happen, is that Congress will want to address the appropriations early on in 2026 so that there is not any distraction when they head into the election cycle later in the fall. So we have folks obviously on the Hill that give us predictions. There is kind of a conversation happening that it's very possible that they will, by January 30th, pass an appropriation for all funding the federal government through the federal fiscal year ending September 30th. There's also conversations and predictions that it's possible that they will not come to agreement within that short time period and that they would pass another continuing resolution to kind of put the more difficult conversation about funding the full year out again into the future. Neither one of those scenarios would be new to us. We're very accustomed to having those types of, partial funding for a year. Where it becomes difficult for us is we typically get a cost of living adjustment that is based on a pretty complicated economic analysis that allows us to know what our revenue looks like. And that's not going to happen if they have a continuing resolution because they basically fund us at the previous federal year's level. So if they push off their funding decision for the full federal fiscal year, that also pushes off our ability to predict our full federal award off into the future, which given our tight financial situation is less than ideal. But that is kind of what's happening on the appropriation side. And I have some other information to share, but I'll just pause there, see if there are any questions about appropriations at the federal level. All right, not hearing any. The other big news that, if you will recall, there were conversations that happened actually during the election times when the President Trump, then candidate Trump, had suggested that he would eliminate the U.S. Department of Education if he were elected president. There were campaign promises made to that regard. And then early on, as he took office, he started having those types of conversations in press releases and so on. Because the actual elimination of the U.S. Department of Education is not subject to the sole authority of the president. It would require an action of Congress. Nothing happened to that effect. But in the meantime, following the shutdown conclusion, there has been some conversations and some announcements that the Department of Education is entering into agreements with the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to basically enter into interagency agreements to transfer the functions of key operations that take place in those in the Department of Education to those other agencies. So as of now, none of those interagency agreements have gotten down to impact the specific part of the U.S. Department of Education that administers the programs that we operate here in Oregon. The Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, which you will hear us say the acronym called OSERS, and the Rehabilitation Services Administration, which is under OSERS, which we call RSA. Neither one of those entities has been named as a potential for the interagency agreements. But there is conversations happening, and it does appear that there is some intent to transfer at least some of those functions to another federal agency.
Aisha?
Yes.
So just so you're aware, National Federation of the Blind has been meeting with lots of the representatives to make sure that they at least get this heard that this does not happen.
Thank you for that, Commissioner McGarry. That's helpful information. This is unprecedented. I think I'll just say that out loud. It is something that has not taken place since the creation of the U.S. Department of Education in 1980. So we're kind of working in uncharted territory. It doesn't appear that there has been a president to date that has taken this unilateral action without congressional action that preceded it. And so we're just kind of waiting and seeing, like the rest of folks. On a practical level, our interactions with, again, that acronym we call RSA, with the Rehabilitation Services Administration, is we receive technical assistance. They approve our state plan. They do, obviously, periodic monitoring of the programs. They provide us with policy clarity from time to time. But in a lot of ways, states will work with wherever folks end up working in terms of, what federal entity they reside in. There is a lot of symbolic changes that would go along with the change. And obviously, from a disability stakeholder perspective, the U.S. Department of Education is, RSA, our little Rehabilitation Services Administration, is just a tiny little piece of that very large entity. The U.S. Department of Labor is also a really, really large entity. So the concern, obviously, is that the work that happens at the Rehabilitation Services Administration might get buried in some of that other complexity of the other federal entity. Any questions or comments about the activities at the federal level related to the interagency agreements or transferring the work of RSA?
If that happens, sorry, Steph, if that happens, would that affect, I know we're dealing with the budget, would that affect any services if that does happen? Because I know National Federation of the Blind is very concerned about this. We're going to be up there in January in DC talking to, congressmen and representatives about this is going to be our big focus, is the education thing. We're very concerned about this.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner. From all intents and purposes, one of the big logistical questions that's on is that we have a system that is housed at the U.S. Department of Education that has basically it's like a system of doing withdrawals. It's kind of like a bank account in the sky where we do federal draws. So one of the practical questions is if they transfer all of the functionality of the Rehabilitation Services Administration to the U.S. Department of Labor, they have an entirely different draw system. So from a practical matter, obviously, especially in this current situation with our finances, we need timely access to the draws because basically we obligate the funds because the feds don't let us keep cash on hand. So we obligate the funds and then we draw the funds to basically be able to pay the obligations. And so we need timely access to that federal system to be able to pay our bills once we obligate the resources. So that's the biggest concern. When it comes down, they're not making, because Congress actually has the sole authority to change the law. Our law is under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. The Rehabilitation Act is Title IV of that act. There's been no changes to the law, which means that the service delivery structure, all of the grants, infrastructure related to how states operate as a designated state agency or a designated state unit, depending on the state structure, has remained untouched. So there shouldn't be any reason that the system at the state level should change in terms of service delivery. One of our staff's questions was, does this affect or put at risk my job? You know, if there's a structural change at the federal level, would that somehow change a structural change at the state level? And I certainly understand the question. It was a good question, but there would be no change to how the state of Oregon statutory framework works. The feds don't have the authority to change how Oregon does business. Other questions? All right, I will move on to a state update. I mentioned it a little bit already, but we are moving into in 2026 what we affectionately call the short legislative session. The legislature meets every year, and the even years they will take they'll be in town for about 35 days, and they will take up short-term immediate appropriation needs for agencies, and then address a small portfolio of legislative matters. This year is the first in a while where we actually aren't putting forth legislative requests specific to the agency. But we mentioned in October that because of the expected economic shortfall, the financial shortfall for state resources, that there was going to be some level of conversations yet to be kind of formatted or contemplated what that will look like in 2026 in order for the legislature to balance the budget. So the September forecast came in a little under 400 million out of balance, meaning that the available revenue for the state of Oregon exceeded what was allocated in state agency budgets. And so state agencies were directed, if needed, to come up with some reduction options. And then fortunately, the most recent revenue forecast, which Kat has articulated in her financial report, you will note that there was a slight improvement due to some one-time revenue that was found and slight improvement in the economic forecast. So that the whole ended up being, Kat, remind me of the numbers, at 87 million, 78 million. That number isn't stuck in my head the same. But
I think it's
better.
88. You were very close. It's 88 million.
It's way better than we thought. So we are cautiously optimistic that whatever happens at the legislature, if the forecast holds true, that it would not have a direct impact on the agency. You will kind of get a sense that we basically have two main pots of where our budget is concentrated. And that's services to clients, and that's funds that we pay. We call them special payments. That's the budget category. Those are funds that we pay on behalf of clients. That may be tuition, job training supports, technology supports, job search assistance, things that we pay out the door to schools and universities and technology companies on behalf of clients. The other main bucket is staff costs. So if we're looking at having to tighten our belt, those are really the only substantive places that we can look. We can make peripheral type of cuts, but they're really negligible in terms of an impact to any substance, because a lot of our other costs are fixed, rent, paying the light bills, those kinds of things. So it does, if we get to a situation where the state is having to take reductions, it gets real quick around here, because it affects either our ability to maintain our level of staffing, or it directly impacts the amount of funds that we have for clients. And as we've been talking about how our resources for clients is already being taxed, that just exacerbates that challenge that much more. Questions about any of that?
Not a question, but I will add this correction. My memory was off as well. It wasn't 88 million that the projected deficit declined to. It declined from 373 million to 63 million.
63. Thank you, Kat.
Uh-huh.
All right. And then my final item, which is not a last but not least, but we're really excited. You will recall that Melinda Carlson retired as our Director of Independent Living Services at the end of September. And her successor is with us, and he has moved to Oregon, and we're excited to have him here. Paul Coons, who comes to us from the Federal Veterans Administration. And he's here, and I just would ask Paul to just say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself for the board.
Thanks, Dacia. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody, Madam Broom, commissioners, and guests. I'm Paul Coons. I'm new to the Director of Independent Living Program here at OCB in Portland. For those of you that don't know me, I joined this team last month in early November. I come to the team with 25 years of experience in blind, low vision, and TBI rehab field. I've worked a few years with the Virginia State Rehab Office in Roanoke and Richmond, 5 years with New York City Lighthouse International, and really the past 20 years in clinical and administrative roles in blind and low vision programs in Veterans Affairs in Virginia and 2 VAs in California, predominantly in the polytrauma programs with the OEF-OIF wars beginning in 05-06. But I'm really excited to be part of this team and serve Oregonians. I've learned so much in the last several weeks I've been here, and I really look forward to being a part of this commission meeting. Thanks, Dacia.
Yes, thank you, Paul. All right, any questions for Paul? All right, not hearing any, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Yay, thank you, Dacia. And good to have you on board, Paul, as well. And thank you, Kat, as always.
Pleasure.
All right. Okay, so now we are moving into old business. Here is where we would have had the business enterprise update, but that will now be postponed to the February meeting. So now we proceed with the 2026 to 2029 strategic plan development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just a continuation of a conversation that we started several meetings ago. To remind you and start some preliminary preparation work for you commissioners. At your upcoming February meeting, we are planning to have a facilitated conversation where we start to formulate some preliminary strategic priorities for the agency for the upcoming strategic plan cycle. Years ago, we started a practice that basically had the commission and stakeholders help the agency identify the strategic priorities in advance of the development of the agency request budget. So this really helps a couple of things. The first thing it does is it ensures that the commission is guiding the agency both in the strategic direction that you believe is in the best interest of Oregonians who are blind, but it also aligns those strategic decisions with resource requests that the agency is making to inform the governor's budget. So that process has served us well as an agency, but ever since we started doing this, which was many years ago now, we have not been in a resource-constrained environment like we are anticipating now. So part of the reason why this conversation, we want to kind of make sure that you have some time in advance to process it is that when we created the strategic priorities for the last budget, for the budget that we're currently in, the 25-27 budget time, we did not have the same level of fiscal projections to be in a constrained environment. We had some early signs, but really it was the House Resolution 1 that was passed in June of 2025 that dramatically shifted the financial picture for the state of Oregon because of the changes at the federal level. So as a reminder, you identified 5 strategic priorities for the agency. The first being workforce participation, which is centered around the work we do with working age Oregonians who experience vision loss and transition aged youth. Aging in Oregon, recognizing that we are continuing to serve as many Oregonians as we can who are experiencing age-related vision loss, recognizing that we do not have sufficient resources to serve all Oregonians in that age bracket. And due to the financial constraints, we had the governor had recommended a teacher to be added to our staff, and because of the limitations with the financial picture, the legislature did not approve that position. So we're actually working with less resources than we had hoped to help with individuals who are aging and wanting to stay independent in their homes. The third focus area was succession planning, and this is really an internal look at the agency to help us a strategy with making sure that we're recruiting and retaining and preparing for eventual retirements and key positions within our agency because of the specialized work that we do. The fourth focus area was business and community, and this was inclusive as our working with businesses as a customer, because a business is also a customer of the vocational rehabilitation program, but also reflecting the work that we do in helping our entrepreneurs who are blind in the business enterprise program. And the final focus area was customer service and making sure that we are responding to the needs of our customers. So just to frame this out a little bit, and I just would ask commissioners to be thinking over the next couple of months as a way to frame this in my mind, a question for the commission would be, are these 5 focus areas what makes sense for the agency given the limitations that we anticipate with resources moving forward? Again, not an answer that you have to come up with now, but just be thinking about this in advance of February. In my kind of streamlined brain, a consideration for the commission is we may want to pare that strategic list down a little bit and be a little bit more intentional, given the resource constrained environment that we anticipate operating in. The other elements to be thinking about is in recognition of an order of selection where we will have folks that aren't able to be served as timely as we would like in the vocational rehabilitation program. Are there strategic opportunities for us to create stronger partnerships and do some additional work around information and referral and community-based education to help maximize the possibility that some of those individuals who are waiting for our services could potentially benefit from other workforce programs? So those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about in the coming meetings. And I just want to continue to encourage folks to be thinking along those lines, and recognizing that we are going to be, as costs go up and our resources are flat, or we're expecting them to be flat, where can we perhaps do less, make difficult decisions around doing a more concentrated effort of services in certain areas to help with cutting costs down. An example of that is many states do not attempt to serve the entire state in their older blind independent living program. We have never made a policy decision to try to limit ourselves geographically, but given the increased costs and the fixed resources, one of the questions is, would it make sense, recognizing that we're seeing higher wait times, particularly in the metro areas, is to concentrate our resources in the more populated areas where we can serve folks more efficiently and actually serve more individuals? Or do we continue to do the best we can with having our teachers spend, a large portion of their time traveling in the more rural and remote areas? That is a tough decision. And even when I say it out loud, I have a physical reaction to saying that because, the rural parts of our state still have people who want to live independently, and there's a significant equity issue at large. But those are the kinds of tough decisions, if we're not going to get additional resources, that we are going to be facing. I'm going to pause there and just see if folks have any questions or comments as we move into a more substantive conversation in the coming meetings.
Daisha?
Yes.
Oh, I'm about to jump out of my seat after you made that comment. That's hard one, Daisha. Hear me?
It seems like I'm only hearing part of your.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I jump out of my seat after that question or that statement. So what you're saying is that we're only going to be able to help part of the state?
Yeah, and Stephanie, that is purely an example and a hypothetical scenario. So no decisions are being made, but as our resources become tighter, states have made the difficult decision to not even try to serve the entire state. We have never moved in that direction, but that is an example of a decision that we would have a conversation and the commission would help guide the agency as the resources become more and more constrained and the wait times are continue to grow.
Hey, Daisha, this is Neely C.
Yeah.
Hearing that is semi-frightening just because, I mean, I lived in Ontario, Eastern Oregon, right on the Idaho border for many years at this point, and I would not be where I'm at today if the Commission for the Blind wasn't able to come out to where I was.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping as a commission we can find a way to prevent that, because that's a large portion of the state would be completely cut off. It should be very troubling.
Yes. And Lacey, and you brought up a really important point. For the vocational rehabilitation program, we are required to be statewide. And obviously, the majority of our resources are concentrated there. For our older blind independent living program, it is a $407,000 federal award that we get every year that the state invests a large portion beyond that. So we have more resources, but certainly not enough to come close to be able to serve the potential population. But this would not affect a decision like that in the older blind program would be specific to that program and would not affect the statewide-ness of vocational rehabilitation.
Okay.
Not that that makes it any better, but it is specific to older blind.
Stephanie.
Yes.
So this would not affect rehabilitation part, but it would affect for the older blind population. And fortunately, more Oregonians are in that age bracket now.
Stephanie, I'm trying my hardest. Did anyone else pick that up?
I'm having phone issues. I'm having issues. What I said was, so you're saying that most would be old age program, and that's mostly what we have in Oregon now. Is that age bracket? She still can't hear me. Can she?
Stephanie, did you just say that, were you asking if that age is the most clients that we have in Oregon right now?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my question. Is it program going to affect most if that's what happens?
Yeah, we serve more individuals in the older blind independent living program statewide than we do the vocational rehabilitation program every year. The service delivery model is brief, short-term interventions to help folks kind of maintain their independence. And it is so we serve lots of people for a brief period of time in the older blind independent living program and our current service delivery model. But right now, our wait time in Portland, and Paul may be able to articulate this a little bit more, is weeks. So folks are not even getting an initial visit because our referrals in Portland are such that we're completely underwater with being able to serve everyone. And we'll talk about a little bit about this in the data part today.
Yeah, that's correct. In Portland, we're currently reviewing the August referrals data.
This is Neil AC again. What's the current wait period for rural areas?
Ironically, Nalesi, the wait time in rural areas is negligible. The concentration of the population means that the amount of referrals that we get in the more the populous areas of Oregon, it's actually like we're able to get to people faster in the rural areas because the rate of referral is less?
Okay.
Great question. All right. So not to be depressing, but I really want the commission to just kind of you'll get an example of the types of things that we will be contemplating as we're moving forward. We're hoping by the February meeting that we'll have some indication of what the process will be for the development of the agency request budgets. If you can imagine, we're going to start the process early in 2026 for the 2027-2029 biennial budget. This last round, Governor Kotek changed the typical process, and our request for additional general fund resources was limited to $150,000, which dramatically changed how we prepared the agency request budget, because that $150,000 bought us a decimal, a 0.66 or 67 of a teacher. So that it didn't go that far. And then the governor rounded that up to 1.0. So she actually in her budget included it beyond the 150,000 to allow us to be able to have an actual position that didn't end up getting folded into our 25-27 budget due to general fund constraints. So we don't know what our budget's going to look like. And a lot of that's dependent on the economic forecast, and it's also dependent on the governor's priorities that she puts forth for the upcoming budget process. But the strategic planning has really been helpful for us to get clear on, no matter what our resources are, what we want to preserve as our primary focus to do the best that we can, no matter what our resource level is, or we're going into our blind.
This is Nadira. Daisha,
Yeah.
when do we have to finalize the strategic plan by?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We actually we created a process where we update our strategic plan every biennium. So technically, our strategic plan does not expire until 2027. But we've always updated it in the budget years, and I would recommend to the commission that we continue that practice because it just helps us with clarity on the resource decisions. And generally, we start a robust conversation in February. We started talking about this in August. We'll have a more facilitated conversation in February. That will be followed up with some additional stakeholder and staff conversations. And then the goal would be to have an updated strategic plan that could be presented for the commission's action in June of 2026. So we have some time. I kind of like to work ahead of time. Thank you all. That was great.
Thank you, Daisha. And we move forward with the order of selection.
All right, so good afternoon, commissioners. It's good to be with you. It's Angel with Vocational Rehabilitation. And as you know, we are getting ready to move towards the order of selection. And I just wanted to give you a sense about where we are in the process. So, of course, you know that in your last board meeting, you approved our ability to move towards the order of selection. So board approval, check. We have done all of our hearings at this point, our public hearings, virtual and in person. And that has been completed, and we have taken note of comments and hopefully answered questions from the people that were able to attend and provide their valuable questions and feedback. RSA has been noticed at this point, now that they are all back, that we are getting ready to make the request, and they've let us know the elements of things that they want to be sure that we're including. So we are in process of developing our request, which includes the state plan, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. We've had multiple communications that have gone out to the stakeholders throughout the state, from our education partners to all of the clients that we serve, and staff, of course. And we are just grateful for all of you and for all of the people who just continue to push out any notices that you're getting about the order of selection. We'd rather people get multiple notices than not get it. So just in case spam or anything else catches emails, or you hear of anybody that maybe we missed, we've gone to our stakeholders at ACB and NFB to have conversations. So the word is out, and we're getting really good questions from all of the stakeholders, and we welcome those questions to make sure that people understand the implications of moving into the order of selection. And once we have a date, of course, that's going to be shared widely. At this point, we don't have an actual date yet. And we know that once we submit our state plan to RSA and our request to move into the order of selection via that mechanism, they're going to have questions for us. That's their job as the managers of the WIOA and the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And so we expect that we're going to be having some back and forth, and then we do anticipate that they will ultimately approve us going into the order, as they have multiple agencies throughout the nation, including our sister agency here in Oregon. Staff training is under development. We're really close to getting that finalized, and we're planning to do staff training on moving people into and through the order, and also giving resources for talking points to our staff mid-December. And we'll be providing ongoing training for staff as needed, because we realize we're going to be learning things along the way. It's been a long time since we've been in the order of selection. So we'll be taking feedback from stakeholders and staff as to things that they might feel like they could get better acquainted with, or that we can improve processes. So I just wanted to be sure that you kind of know where we are in the process, and I am very happy to take any questions that people might have. Any questions?
Stephanie, you don't have a
Yes,
question.
yes.
Hopefully you can hear me.
I hope so too.
So what happens with a client that gets close? Do they go to that order of selection, or get some services?
I think, let me restate your question. It sounds a bit like you're underwater, sort of, Stephanie.
Okay.
So I think what you're asking is, what happens if a client gets closed? Can they still receive any services, or is that your question?
Yes, after services.
So if a client is closed before we go into the order of selection, if they re-engage with us and they are in danger of losing their employment, they would jump to the front of, they would not go into a waiting list, is probably the best way for me to say that. If a client applies for services after closure and we're in the wait list, and they are not in danger of losing employment, they're not in a retention plan, they would go onto the wait list in the order in which they applied.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that make sense? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Great.
I was asking.
No, that's great. Thank you, Stephanie.
Angel,
Yes.
what is the order? In terms of like who's a priority, or is it just order of who's referred first?
So for us, there are categories under which people are placed based on the number of barriers that they present to employment. So that it could be someone who's blind and also has mental health or intellectual developmental barriers, those kinds of things. It also based on the kinds and number of services that people will be needing. In our environment, because every everyone that we serve is going to be legally blind. We anticipate the majority of people are going to be falling into the, most significantly or significantly disabled categories. So the likelihood of the way that people are going to be served is going to have most likely be by application date.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Would it make sense to I don't know, think about the priority in the sense of like um who would be most successful in the program, or a length of rehabilitation time or resources to, I guess, maximize the number of uh, applicants going through the program and gaining employment?
That is a great question, Dr. Labyrinth. And what the you make a really good point. This is actually delineated under the regulations for the Rehab Act. So we don't actually have control of how we manage the order. It is the delineation is that we do have to do it by category, and most significantly disabled goes actually to the front of the line. So we don't have the ability to choose, like looking for like the lightest touch, or who we can, who gets served more efficiently or effectively
Oh, I
based
see.
on their needs. It's based on their barriers and the number of services that they're going to require, with the most significantly being the ones that we have to prioritize. And the reason for that, the logic behind it is that those people who are most significantly disabled are the ones that most can benefit from VR services. Whereas, to Dacia's point earlier, we are looking for opportunities for clients, especially as we go into an order of selection, for those clients who maybe don't have as many barriers to get services from our partner agencies, like within the WorkSource systems. And we are actively collaborating with those systems right now, making sure that they have the education and tools they need to be able to do that. And we're partnering with them as well. That this will not be a new thing. It's just that we're continuing to forge those relationships and make sure that they have the education and tools to work with our clients. So we really do expect that people that don't have very many barriers, maybe all they have is blindness, especially if they're not new to blindness. But for example, maybe they're just looking for, additional opportunities to go into a new career or advance in their current career, that they would be tapping into these other systems to get them the resources they need to, like, just to meet employers that might be able to provide those opportunities and then use their existing skills.
Thank you, Angel.
Angel,
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, so Stephanie?
Stephanie, I have another question.
Yeah.
You're talking about WorkSource, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you're aware that WorkSource has no accessibility for blind people at their offices as far as connectivity, correct?
So yes, Stephanie, that's what I'm saying. We're actively, and we have been, we're actively working with WorkSource systems to help them to continue to develop the opportunities for working with people with vision loss. We do realize that there are challenges that we continue to work through. So yes, that's a very, very real issue that we continue to be very active. Our business relations and workforce teams are working really closely with multiple WorkSource systems around the state to try to build their capacity. We have counselors that are actively working in those systems right now, trying to make sure that they understand how to engage with our population. But yes, we understand that there are challenges there, and that's why we want to continue to not only forge those relationships, but we hope that as we go through the order, we're going to be able to help as many people as possible, especially those that have the most barriers to employment, that don't have their own tools and resources at home, for example, because there is lots that we can do also just from our own, if we have the skills, right, from our own homes and from with our own skill sets that hopefully people are trained to. But yes, lots of opportunities there.
I'm sure you're aware it's just they don't know how to deal with blind people. You go in that office, don't have computers, the website is not accessible. accessible to us. I've tried to use it many times. It's not excellent, you know, really. This is just, no, I know you're not doing the best that you can, but I just want to make sure that you're fully aware
I
because
am fully aware.
okay,
Yes,
okay,
I'm fully
okay.
aware. It is something, it's a systems thing that we have been continuing to work on. And so, yes, fully aware that that's not going to be an opportunity for every end user and client in our system.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
good questions, though.
really great question.
And I think the reality is there is a need for specialized services for individuals who are blind. Thus, the policy decision to have a commission for the blind in the first place. Because
Yes.
with a low incidence disability, it's hard for other infrastructure to maintain the expertise and the technology for access at the frequency and the limited rate of applications that come through of candidates who are blind. The way to think about it, this is an opportunity for us to help increase the visibility, the importance of accessibility when folks who are otherwise entitled to get those services, who would come to us, but we will not have the resources to serve them. They should technically should be able to access those other services. By law, they should be able to, but the practical reality is exactly how you describe it, Stephanie, that there are many barriers to that. And it's considerably less than ideal. But we just want to make sure that we can do everything we can. If we can't serve them directly, that there is some options for as many people as possible.
I understand that. I just want to make sure you're aware because if you should be calling me.
Yeah.
Be the event of
we feel it
Yes.
completely.
100%.
This is Nilesi. Quick question and interesting question. Is there policies or procedures in place that would, I mean, since there's a limited selection order, I shouldn't say limited, but you know, we can't serve everybody at once. Are there procedures in place that would that go into place if somebody isn't actively, I don't know how else to put it, doing their part in this process? Like they receive the services and then they're kind of stagnant and not doing the things needed to proceed.
Well, first of all, hello, Nalesi. It is so good to have you on the board. I would say that we would be operating very similarly to how we do now, which is that we, on a case by case basis, we work alongside clients to make sure that they're really ready for vocational rehabilitation services. We are actively looking at caseloads right now and trying very hard to identify clients who maybe aren't able to benefit or participate in services right now so that we can close those people and really focus on people who are able and interested in doing the hard work of vocational rehabilitation and moving towards their goals. So there isn't anything in particular during the order of selection that would change. It would just be a continued focus on trying to make sure that we are working alongside and identifying, opportunities for people who are stuck and maybe who could move forward but just have been stuck for a while, but also closing cases if people just aren't ready right now to engage in those services. So it's an ongoing challenge and opportunity for sure.
Thank you for
Great
that.
question.
I have another question about that.
Yeah.
Again, this question, because what he's asking about some of those people that have those extra limitations or disabilities. So that's why it's hard that you guys have to categorize people with other disabilities top of the list, and you have these other that don't have those other limitations that are employable and will do the work. So that's why I still have why those get the categories first, because sometimes they do the work. So again, why are you forced to put those people at the top of the list is a concern.
Yes, Stephanie, it isn't
Yeah.
just specific to oftentimes majority of people that we serve in the vocational rehabilitation program are people who are new to blindness. They may not have other secondary disabilities. They could, but oftentimes people will come to us and they will have, as Angel described, lots of barriers related to blindness. They'll need, cane travel and technology and braille and techniques of daily living, lots of service needs associated with those barriers. So it isn't just individuals with multiple disabilities. It's oftentimes individuals who are also new to blindness. So it really isn't about the diagnosis of the disability. It's related to the needs, and the service needs and the barriers to employment, which
Both. Yeah.
yes.
So what if it's a person that is new to blindness? However, it's someone that is just not able to be employed because they're not willing to do the work.
That's really, I think the simple way to say it is that's really not, and that is a vocational rehabilitation challenge, and why we have graduate level counselors that are working with individuals. It's not an order of selection issue. Those are challenges that we meet every day with individuals who, for whatever reasons, may have, barriers related to motivation or what have you. But those are really separate and distinct from my perspective with the order of selection, because we're really focusing on looking at what Congress contemplated was to make sure that these specialized funds for individuals who experience disability you're basing your decisions based on disability needs and services. And motivation, unless there's some disability related underlying cause, is not a disability related reason. So counselors are making those preliminary judgments. How plans proceed, and whether that plan is successful, and whether that individual ultimately might be, closed out for reasons of not being able to follow through, what have you. That oftentimes presents itself in the plan execution, which is not at all related to order of selection.
Right, but I'm not talking about order of selection.
Yeah.
I know what I'm asking about, Daisha. There's people that are just not going to be employable, and they're still put to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And there's other that are going to be available, and they're going to be like, I'm blind, and I'm employed and not. And a disability is disability, and that's what they're going to be saying. So why is this person put to the top list that I'm not? But so honest, I'm already having conversations with NFP. They're very sad already about all of this.
Sure.
I'm just trying to figure out how to calm them down.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that we need to recognize is there is nothing easy about this process.
Right.
Right? It's an acknowledgement that you don't have enough resources to go around.
Right.
There is a federal process, as Angel described, that indicates that you have to prioritize individuals with the most significant needs and barriers first. And then you get into the conversations in natural places. Well, is this person rehabilitation ready or rehabilitation worthy, or why should this disability barrier, be more important than another? Those are natural conversations that I think happen.
Right.
The truth is, if somebody is inactive, right, because for whatever reason, the practical nature is if they're in a plan and they may have stalled because they're not ready to pursue something, the counselor's not projecting costs associated with that individual. So they're not keeping somebody else from coming through and getting services. So it's not a count of how many people have come in to plan services. We're actually going to be projecting the costs of helping people and who we've committed to, and individuals who, for whatever reason, may have to delay services. They will not, that delay will not keep somebody else from getting services because we would likely not be actively spending resources on their behalf.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So really good questions.
Very good question. Yes. It's not easy, and we really appreciate your support as we are moving towards this, and we always appreciate the really great questions as they come up. So don't hesitate to bring those forward as you're hearing from stakeholders. All right, that is what we have on the order of selections. So I think we can close that unless there's any additional questions. More to come for sure.
Okay, thank you, Angel.
All right. Thank you.
All right, now we will shift into new business and I'll bring Daisha back in. We are going on to the 2026 meeting dates.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. We did a preliminary review of the calendar 2026. Generally, we meet the first Friday of the even months, but we wanted to call attention for the commission. So February 6th would be a typical date. That seems to not have a conflict. The April meeting, however, conflicts with Good Friday, I believe. And so we would propose that we would move that meeting up 1 week. And that would make that, I think it is the 27th of March. Let me make sure. March 27th. The next meeting, that would be the stand in the April position. The next meeting and the remainder of the year, we would propose that they would retain the first Friday tradition. So June 5th, August 7th, October 2nd, and December 4th. So if there are conflicts that you find on your calendar, and we'll have Max notify you as well separately and make sure we loop in the other commissioners who weren't able to be here today, of the change in the April commission meeting date to the 27th of March.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we move on now to the overview of performance data and caseload trends for client services for federal fiscal year 2025.
All right, and since we've been talking so much, I think Angel should go first, since we have VR on our minds already.
Okay, I thought I was unmuted, but it was not letting me unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just hop over here, get over to my presentation. All right. So, good afternoon, commissioners. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about the VR program. I'm going to give myself a little timer here.
Timer, start.
All right. So the purpose of the vocational rehabilitation program is to provide exemplary services for vocational rehabilitation to our participants, as we've all been just talking about, and we're not going to stop doing that as we move into the order, but also a reminder that part of our approach in the vocational rehabilitation program is to be a dual customer. So we equally want to make sure that we're providing exemplary services to our employers throughout the state of Oregon, as we're bringing those participants into those arenas for progressive employment and employment opportunities. Of course, a big part of what we do in the vocational rehabilitation program is that we provide and coordinate resources for our clients to help them live independently and achieve employment outcomes. And then also, of course, as I mentioned, that we're using resources both internally and externally to make sure that we're getting the resources that employers need to be successful in matching our constituents into the jobs that are going to make Oregon a great place to live. So service delivery, we want to talk a little bit about how the vocational rehabilitation counselors work. So vocational counselors take all clients from a referral status and through the entirety of the opportunities that are available to clients. So we're going to get them through the application and eligibility and individual plan for employment. That's the first order of business. And then all of the magic of service delivery begins to start, where we can allow clients to come and get training services at the center and also out in the field. And then we're connecting clients to all of the resources that they might need to be successful, including, sometimes we're starting with career exploration. We always want to start with a goal, but we also know that some clients come to us and they just don't know because they are maybe new to vision loss. So we've got certifications, college experience, job development, coaching, and ultimately employment is what we're looking to do in voc rehab. We know that not all clients, as Stephanie was just mentioning, are ready for the process, but when clients are ready and they're ready to do the work, it is pretty magical to watch that journey. Let's see, I just want to hop down here. So one of the things I do want to highlight is our workforce team that is part of the vocational rehabilitation team. They are the ones that have business relations and assistive technology that are working both with our clients and with the employers throughout Oregon to make sure that our clients are trained and ready to rock and roll, and that our employers are getting what they need. And then also reminder, of course, that we have vocational rehabilitation counselors in our staff as part of the VR system, and also policy and program staff that support the process. And I like to make sure that everybody knows that, of course, all clients start in VR when they go into business enterprise. So that's really important to note how we work in conjunction with business enterprise. And we are the funnel into which people go into business enterprise. And the center only serves VR clients. So we're also the funnel into the training center. And then also a reminder that the independent living team provides VR services throughout the state of Oregon. So all of us are interdisciplinary. And of course, we can't do all of this work without our incredible accounting team helping us to get those purchases through the system and support our clients in all the ways that we need to serve them and pay those bills. Challenges and opportunities. We still are facing a lot of social service and foundational needs challenges, housing, all mental health services. And a lot of times clients can't even think about work until those needs are met, and we have a lot of challenges in that area. Increased expenditures, as you already know about. That's why we're going into the order of selection, and just ongoing needs for training for people who experience multiple barriers. I do want to shout out to our commissioner, Scott Wall, who has been come in and done some training, is going to continue to do training on working with people with multiple barriers. And our staff have really been excited about having him here, and we're bringing him back in the new year. So thank you, Scott. And then real quick, I just want to walk through kind of some of our overview performance. So we had 52 clients that were closed at successful statuses, 821 clients that were unduplicated, and 838 clients duplicated, meaning 17 clients both closed successfully, or closed and then reopened again. And then we wanted to highlight that our average hourly income in federal fiscal year 25 was $29.43 an hour, so not too shabby for an average. And client satisfaction was at 91%. I don't know if I have a little more time because we're not doing business enterprise data, but let me know.
Angel, can you repeat the average wage again?
Yeah, it is. We were at $29.43 an hour on average.
Pretty good.
It is pretty good.
That's up to the chair if she wants to give you additional time. That's her call.
I just have a few more bullet points if you want to hear them, but I'm happy to pass off to the next.
Go ahead, Angel.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to highlight a few of the careers. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of the careers that people were closed successfully in over the last federal fiscal year. Psychologist, massage therapist, rehabilitation counselor, teacher, home health aide, childcare, and a sound engineer. Those are just some highlights of people that were closed in interesting vocations. And that does it. I just wanted to make sure I got to highlight some of those career paths that people are on. And do we want to do questions at the end, Madam Chair or Daisha?
If you can just take questions as they come, it's okay.
Okay. Any other questions for me for vocational rehabilitation? All right.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yes.
Yes, just real quick. So what are particular reasons that one would successfully close and then reopen again
Jen,
services?
if they were closed successful, that would generally mean that either they have realized that there is an opportunity for advancement and they need support, or there is a change in the business environment and they need support. So, as an example, maybe something happened within the computer system at a small business and we need to help with scripting for JAWS would be an example. Yeah, so it'd just be any number of reasons why someone either wants to retain their job, career advance, or maybe they got laid off and they need help finding a new job. Is that helpful?
Oh yes, my thoughts exactly. I just wanted to kind of just get it out there, so
Oh, thank you, Lacey.
those
Great
would
question.
understand why that would happen.
Why that would happen. Yeah, that's a great question.
Angel, this is Alan. I have another question.
Yes, please.
Does OCB offer support or in terms of mental health counseling or housing needs? Do you connect people with the proper services, or is that offered through the Commission for the Blind?
So yes, we do. And so what the thing I would say about that is we do have, and I did have my highlights at the end that for some reason got cut off and they just popped back up for me. So one of the things I was going to highlight is that we do have interns is one of our really great things in terms of something to celebrate. And interns actually do mental health counseling that are from PSU and Western Oregon University. They will do some internal mental health counseling, and we also access external mental health counselors. So that was a highlight I wanted to make sure as an example, like right now we have 2 interns that are doing that kind of work and learning how to do voc rehab work. And right now we have 4 that are knocking on our door to come in next year, even though that we're only doing unpaid internships. And I just hired 2 interns that had worked for us last year as other VR counselors moved into other positions in other places. So that's just a really big highlight that I wanted to make sure that you know. But yep, absolutely mental health.
Thank you, Angel.
All right, next up is Jim Portillo, who's the Training Center Director.
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
You sound great.
Excellent. Good deal. Good afternoon, commissioners, and I'm happy to talk to you today about our training center and some of the great things happening there. So, number one, what is the purpose of the training center? So, as you all know, we are part of the VR program. So we partner very closely. In fact, I'm so pleased with the teamwork that we have with the counselors. So our clients will meet with the counselors. They will identify needs. And then that's kind of where the training center comes in, because we will assess the client to see where they are with whatever is necessary. So say they need orientation and mobility, or say they need all of the skills of blindness in order to continue to do better with employment. Maybe they're new to blindness and they need all those areas as far as training goes. So once they get assessed, then that's where the class work comes in. That's where the training component comes in. And during the training and even after, we also look at, okay, you've learned the skills, so how can you begin to implement those skills when it comes to looking for employment and keeping employment? So that's the purpose of the training center. As far as service delivery goes, As I just mentioned, our training center is very much comprised of the classes that we offer. So we offer all of the skills of blindness, so Braille, orientation and mobility, home management, which includes the meal preparation and the techniques of daily living. We do communications, which involves Braille and adaptive devices. So how do people use their phones? And recording devices and things along that line. We do technology. So we do now mainly Windows, but we have taught some Mac. And also we have a woodshop component. So you think, well, wow, that's very cool. And that helps build confidence, and that helps also people use other skills in their classes. The majority of those classes are in person, although we have about 25% that are more remote. And that is also for the people who can't always come in, or they have work schedules and things like that. So they can also use that time for classes. We also have discussion classes. So we have our Living with Blindness, which is dealing with adjustment to the sight loss. And now we have a new discussion class that started in April, and it's called Conversations About Blindness. So that's dealing more with those who are already adapting to their blindness a little bit more and doing training, and now they're wanting to know about blindness on a more, daily, practical, philosophical level. People are very enthusiastic about that. Most of our instructors are also blind, which is great because they can also relate to the clients, and the clients can ask questions. And also our O&M instructors are, of course, certified and bring about both experience and degrees to the mix. So we're happy to just have our clients be trained by some of the very best. Challenges and opportunities. So we continue to get more and more people referred to our training center. So while it is a challenge, it is also an opportunity to basically serve more and more people. But because of that, we needed to find new ways of serving some of our clients. So one of our newer ways is we're having more and more group classes, which seem to be working very well. That means that we can bring in more people to do some of these group classes with quite a high degree of success. Also, unfortunately, student attendance is still somewhat of a challenge because life gets in the way. People get ill. People have other opportunities for jobs and such that they need to also learn to deal with. So they're looking for balances between classes and life. And sometimes that affects their attendance. But they also know that we really look at the importance of blindness training, and we really emphasize that to them as well. So that seems to be probably our biggest challenge at this point. Overview of program performance. Gosh, we've had anywhere between 60 and 80 people per term taking classes. We have currently 2 people who are in our residential program. So we have 3 apartments, and now that we have more opportunities, we're having more people who are wanting to take advantage of our residential program. So that's really good. I think we've served about 150 people this past year, which is quite a bit. Celebrations and accomplishments. Again, I want to really commend our instructors who are doing more group classes. I also am happy that our new discussion classes have been going well. In fact, we just had this year also a Spanish discussion class for our Spanish-speaking students, and they just loved it. Now, most of the core group is graduating or finishing up their training, so we won't be having our Spanish group next term, but hopefully the term after. But our conversations about blindness and our living with blindness are very popular. And aside from that and the group classes, just looking at our pre and posts I look at all the progress that our students are making, and we're just thrilled. We're just thrilled that the training is going well for them, and we hope to continue to do more next year. And that is my presentation for all of you.
Thank you, Jim. So this is Nadira, by the way. I have a question about the attendance. So what's the standard? As in, what's the process? How many absences?
Well,
Yeah.
and this is still very much something that we're looking at. We want, of course, we would love 100% attendance, but we know that can't happen. Right now it's at 90, right now our standard is 90%. We are looking at, realistically right now, our attendance has been anywhere from 80 to about 83%. We're looking at how many absences? Well, we're looking at two absences before we start talking to them about seeing what we can do to help them improve their attendance, seeing what we can do to also just let them know the importance of the attendance. And also, if they're not communicating with us, then we also talk to their counselor, and we also give them a kind of and I hate to put it this way, but a 3 strikes policy before we say, maybe right now is not the time for you to, maybe you need to focus on getting your health or getting your other life issues taken care of, and then come back for classes. And that seems to be working better. But again, we're definitely talking to our counselors more. We're talking to our instructors more, and we're looking at all of our ways to get our attendance up.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Do you require them to wear sleep shades while they're in the center?
We encourage it. We talk about the importance of non-visual techniques. A lot of our classes really do emphasize it. I like that word better than encourage. I like emphasize because we talk about the importance of it. Obviously, some people are learning some things with the Fusion screen reading software, so that's going to be harder for them to wear sleep shades if they're looking at screen magnification. But we definitely emphasize it, Stephanie, and we talk about it as much as we can.
I have one question. What about doing some type of an employment like
I'm glad you
classes?
mentioned it because Angel mentioned our business relations team a little bit ago, and they are now working a lot. They're working very closely with the center to get them doing things like more workshops to do have them more involved in our JDN job development network. We're also doing a career services reimagined with counselors and with the business relationship program. So we are definitely working more with them to do more with employment readiness. So yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, and the final overview is for Independent Living Services, and Paul Coons is going to do that. And phone a friend, Paul, if you need my help.
Yeah, great. Daisha, thank you for that. And Jim, thanks for your overview. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, commissioners. It's Paul again. I'll be providing a brief overview of the older blind independent living programs and how services are provided to clients throughout the state. As asked before, I'll incorporate some metrics towards the end of the overview and then take any questions or phone a friend, as Daisha had mentioned. I appreciate the opportunity to be with y'all today. So the purpose of the Older Blind Independent Living Program is to empower Oregonians with vision loss to live independently and safely in their homes through a one-to-one training experience. I often say in the blind and low vision rehab field, we all want to feel purposeful at the end of the day, including our clients. We always go to bed sleeping easier when we feel purposeful during the day. Our instructors, 6 of them hold backgrounds in blind rehab therapy. They offer training for non-working individuals, which differentiates us from the voc rehab side of the house. And these individuals who face daily living challenges due to visual impairment and/or blindness. Referrals to the OB or older blind program occur by contacting the OCB offices and provide brief intake with our HSA team. And then based on the client's regions, the HSAs will assign them to a field instructor caseload, which covers that county or region. So for clients age 55 or older, there's actually no legal blindness documentation or I-report necessary or required for enrollment in the OB program if they're 55 or older. So that doesn't really slow down service delivery. For clients under age 55, a legal blindness diagnosis is required in order to receive services in the home through the OBIL program. Services are free to Oregon residents, and participants can receive multiple home visits to reinforce those newly learned techniques and maximize their success in their everyday lives. Our blind rehab instructors are based in Portland. We currently have 2 instructors in Portland with a 3rd coming on who is an intern. We have 2 in the Salem office, 1 in Redmond office up in Bend area, and 1 in Medford. They schedule their own training times and determine the number of training sessions based on the client's goals. But it is limited to usually a few sessions up to 5. But again, it's tailored towards the client's needs. We currently have an instructor vacancy in the Eugene office. So the Salem team, both Kevin and Ashley, are adequately covering the Eugene territory currently. Those one-to-ones trainings are individualized and tailored to meet the needs, as I mentioned. Common goals could include adjustment to blindness discussions, working with a client on understanding their vision loss. We recently had a client who had multiple strokes, and she didn't understand seeing in quadrants and missing a lower field of vision. So having our instructors work with them on concepts and understanding their vision loss and how to adjust. Of course, as Jim mentioned, learning alternative techniques for daily tasks, as well as simplifying the home environment to enhance safety and reduce fall risk. Oftentimes, our instructors will take a walk around the house and really see tripping hazards and really try to simplify the environment to enhance safety and reduce falls as much as possible. Training also includes tint assessments, home and kitchen safety, improving activities of daily living, accessing print, that's a big one, and even learning alternative ways to use their smartphone or iPhone through use of voiceover or Siri or screen enhancement or turning their screen to reverse polarity so that they can view better without the glare. Mobility training is also available for individuals who benefit from safer travel strategies and needing to maximize tactile cues. We often say if you're not able to see it, we need to make sure we are feeling what we're doing and where we're going. The importance of being seen, the importance of being identified with a white cane or an ID cane or a support cane is very important in the home and community. Our team does provide white cane travel to clients. If the client already has a support cane, we will provide a support cane that does have white reflective tape for safety. So for many, it may not just improve safety or prevent falls, but may increase social integration, which is a major factor as we measure quality of life. So being a data-driven organization really allows our leaders to guide the strategic planning and see that we'll review and plan for future operations to meet our clients' needs throughout the state of Oregon. So in Oregon, the data shows between 2022 and 2050 that Oregon will see an increased population of those age 65 and older. AARP does estimate that within 5 years, 1 in every 5 Oregonians will be 65 or older. And for the first time, seniors will outnumber residents under age 18. So as people age, they're more likely to experience changes in their vision, ranging from mild to severe vision loss. So the needs for these home and community-based trainings will continue to be very, very necessary to support success through specialized instruction, really based on their goals. In fiscal year 25, our blind rehab instructors served just under 1,100 Oregonians. So out of all our field instructors, ending fiscal year 25 at the end of September, our entire team of 6 to 7 instructors served just under 1,100 Oregonians in their homes. As you can imagine, the satisfaction scores are very, very high with this team as clients really didn't know what they could learn. You know, it's that concept of we don't know what we don't know. So oftentimes our instructors are provided very, very high satisfaction scores. I often get calls from clients as well with very positive reviews. So some challenges and opportunities that we've been seeing. We discussed the longer wait times due to we have one instructor vacancy in Eugene. We're down one in Portland, and there's a high demand for the OB program. And Deja mentioned it earlier, with a large concentration of visually impaired Oregonians in the Portland region, we are experiencing a larger wait time than more remote field offices throughout the state. Lacey inquired about wait times per field office. And so our benchmark and overall target is under 15-day wait time. Our Salem office has 2 instructors. They also cover the Eugene region that's vacant, and their wait time is at approximately 24 to 25 days. Our Medford region wait time is 21 days. Redmond is at 31 days. Our Portland office is over 100 days currently. As I mentioned, we do have a third instructor, Cleo, coming on board at Portland. She's one of our successful interns coming online in January, which should help bring down the wait list. But as Daisha did mention earlier, we do look at concentrations closer to Portland, just based on the city population, based on public transportation and access to public transportation and transit, and just being a more walkable city, we are seeing that higher concentration of referrals come through Portland region. So overall, all the field offices is at 54 days, but Portland wait time brings that average higher. So another challenge, without eye reports needed for the 55 plus population in our older blind program, we cannot always effectively triage individuals versus those on a wait list. For example, just last week, we had a client call Friday evening to one of our HSAs, and they had stated that they need immediate needs due to recent strokes affecting their eyes. Their daughter lived up the road, and she was afraid she was going to fall. When our instructor did fit the lesson in earlier this week, they did determine they were no worse off than the general wait list. So, effectively triaging cases based on whether they live alone, based on other avenues is oftentimes challenging based on just hitting the wait list as it is listed. Another challenge, due to high demand, clients may receive only a few sessions due to the wait list. And then scheduling times for our instructors to get continuing education and training times. They're often out in the field driving, as we mentioned, especially south and east. The field instructors, are traveling a lot and may be very busy and can't get on a scheduled training for their continuing education. So an overview of the program, performance benchmarks. Besides the wait time, I'll mention 2 of our current measures. And one of them is our instructors providing direct service to clients at least 65% of the time. And I'm happy to report in November that 61% average for clients being provided direct training time. Our benchmark is 65%, so we did just about meet that. New referrals seen within 15 days from referral date. We're currently in November 1st as 45 days average. To talk about one other metric that we do track is successful closures, and having each instructor have an average of 5 successful closures per month. We came in an average of 5.5. That was based on 33 clients successfully closed for our entire team to the month of August or the month of October. So to kind of close out, excuse me, the celebrations and things to point out to highlight due to the high demand for home rehab services from our instructors, sessions focus immediately on the identified goals, and it's really an agreement between the client and the instructor. A few sessions may be all that's needed. As I mentioned, 2 of our Salem instructors cover for Eugene. The IL team really does come together for strong support, group practices, training tips in group chats, especially for technology, headboards, metas, iPhone, voiceover, things like that, so they can support each other. And our valuable resources that they provide in a kind of a kit that they provide each of our clients when they go to the homes. Large print packets for clients and their families. They include various low vision device catalogs, large print resources for programs like 211 info, eye-to-eye peer support, legacy health falls prevention group programs, script talk info, writing and signature guides to benefit clients and their families. So because they may not be able to see them more than a few times, oftentimes they want to set them up with the resources in their community so that they can be supported. And lastly, I'd say our leadership team, we're very incorporated into the statewide IL committees. For example, I was just down at the recent Silk committee meeting in Salem this past Wednesday. And the trainings and meetings with all of the centers of living, independent living were just awesome. Great partnerships, and it promotes the possible referrals should any of their clients experience a visual impairment. So in the interest of time, I'll close out there. I appreciate being part of my first commission meeting, and we could open it up to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Any questions for Paul?
Thank you for sharing. This is Nilesi, by the way. One question I do have is there any portion of the independent living that has to do with community service, community involvement, through volunteering or what have you, to help that population kind of stay connected with community, which could aid in so many other areas? Just out of curiosity.
That's a great question, Alicia. I may phone a friend on that one. Angel or Daisha, do you have?
Yeah, Lacey, I think one of the things that's a really good question. Oftentimes, what happens when individuals experience age-related vision loss is they stop doing things that they once enjoyed. So one of the benefits of the independent living services is individuals get the confidence and the tools to be able to resume whatever level of activities that they were once doing, including community engagement and volunteerism. So the goals are individualized, but oftentimes, even with some very time-limited interventions, folks will get the skills and the confidence to be able to say, oh, well, there's no reason why I can't attend that Lions meeting, or, can't help out with the craft fair or what have you. But it is really up to that individual to establish their own goals, and the teacher will help support them in reaching those goals, whether that be, home focused or community based.
Okay.
And Lacey, in the package, our instructors do provide some resources for phone group conversations. This happened a lot within the VA. They called it wellness calls, but they had various group calls based on free lines that they could call. And the overall goal was to reduce isolation. So there's definitely some resources that are provided, from eye-to-eye peer support, senior loneliness line for those over 55. And then also instructors may talk about if there is a local assisted living center or somewhere. And that also promotes mobility to get out and about in case they can get out and socialize. So our instructors, I think it's really just embedded in them to really work the client into the community if that's a purposeful goal for the client. But thanks, appreciate that question.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Any other
Anyone else?
questions from the
Oh,
group?
yeah, any other questions? Right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Paul. Okay. So now we continue with the 2026 audit plan.
Good afternoon. This is Clay Franson, the internal auditor. So I would be happy to talk about the internal audit plan. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll make this short and sweet, or as sweet as you can make an internal audit plan. But anyway, good afternoon, commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As you may recall, in your last meeting in October, I gave an overview of the 2025 risk assessment for OCB. And we update the risk assessment annually with input from the leadership team. And then we use that information to influence the internal audit plan for the following year. And so I'll just spend a minute or two today giving you a high-level overview of the 2026 internal audit plan, which you have a copy of in your packet. The plan basically outlines my work for the coming year, and it includes internal audits, some project work, some consulting work, and one project in particular that kind of fits into a big part of the conversation today. I will be doing a post-implementation review of the order of selection process. So once we get it up and running, so probably toward the end of 2026, I'll take a post-implementation look at it to assess our compliance and our controls over the implementation, specifically looking at the priority and wait list management, our communication practices with the clients, the accuracy of the data. So I hope that will be a helpful look after we have it up and running. Some other projects through the year, I'll do some consulting work around tracking of OCB contracts, tracking client self-employment data. Some project work will include additional work on record retention for the agency, helping Angel and her team with updating the VR policy manual. And then we have a bucket of hours currently at 200 hours for just any emerging topics that come up through the year. I call those the management request hours. And then some time set aside to continue to update the risk assessment on an annual basis and to keep our quality assurance manual, which holds all of the internal controls for the agency to help keep it up to date. So that's it in a nutshell. We consider it a dynamic audit plan, and it can change throughout the year as risks change. So any questions? Right.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Clay. Okay, moving forward with state plan updates for the vocational rehabilitation program.
All right. Good afternoon again, commissioners. Good to be with you. And I want to make this short and sweet as well. So just to underline the fact that we are in the process of doing the amended state plan for the request to go into the order of selection. That is not to be confused with the actual full state plan update that's going to be submitted in March, and that is for the entire state, that all of our partners and all of us working together to update the state plan. So just to be aware that there's going to be additional public hearings and other elements of the state plan development that you may be hearing about, and that is again for the full state plan update that we have a trajectory towards for March. And we may be incorporating some of the hearing times for the, as Clay mentioned, the policy manual update, because we're very close to being ready to put that in front of all of you, and also see how that works in conjunction with the state plan and all of the other things that we're trying to do in the VR program. So that, I think that's enough to say about the state plan. Do you want me just to move right into SWEP?
Yes.
Madam Chair? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So final subject of the day, the best subject of the day, I hope, one of the best, is our youth, getting to serve our students who are headed towards the summer work experience program. And we are currently accepting applications. So those are out and on the street. So if you know of anybody that hasn't gotten a notice that's of the age and that is eligible, we definitely want to get that into their hands. It's posted on our website, but it should be fairly easy to find. And we are in the process of actually looking at other, we may still work with Portland State University, that's still on the docket, but we're looking at some other universities as opportunities. So we'll more to come, but we're looking for some locations that might not be right downtown. So anyway, there is more to come. We'll get more numbers for you and have more information in your upcoming February meeting. Any questions about the state plan or SWEP?
Share something exciting for you, Angel.
What was that?
Sorry, Angel, Tiffany. So I don't know if you're aware, but Andrew Cottis, is that his last name? Anyways, my Russian.
Yes.
The sweaty, the one that won last year, he has scholarship from NF.
Yay! Love that. Love that. I did hear that because I was at the NFB meeting, and I got to spend some time with that SWEP students. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Thank you, Stephanie.
Hey, this is Neil AC, Angel. Just a question of curiosity. Do you guys still do the weekend retreat for SWEP out at Seaside or wherever it was?
You talking about college readiness?
No, it was SWEP. I mean, I when I was going through SWEP way back when, we would do once a year, do that, or retreat to Seaside, and there would be a few speakers that would come, and we would make pizza one night and just really focus on SWEP stuff, network, and create friendships with other SWEP participants, and over the weekend.
I'm wondering, Nelisi, you mean separate from the summer program or during the summer program?
I honestly, it was so long ago, I can't remember. I just remember it was part of SWEP. That's all I remember, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, I think we do incorporate a lot more of those like college readiness into the like evenings and weekends of the summer program. We were starting there. We did used to do a college prep it would coincide with a lot of the same students that would go to SWEP, so it could have felt like associated with that. But we kept getting less and less participants, and so it ended up fizzling out because we'd have like one or two students, which wasn't enough to make it worthwhile. It is something we continually think about, but it's just hard to get students in the middle of the school year to come away for a weekend, it seems, these days. But yeah, great question. You bet. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm a wrap.
Okay, thank you, Angel. And that was the last agenda item. So
3:04 p.m.
Everyone, barring no further questions or comments.
3:04 p.m.
It is now 3:04 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and in advance, happy holidays. Not gonna see you guys until next year.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Good to see everyone.
Yeah, everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.